The Human Federation had successfully maintained peace across millions of colonies scattered throughout the galaxy for years. However, this peace was about to be shaken. A few human colonies, tired of the Federation's strict regulations, had turned their weapons against the government, demanding independence. What seemed like a handful of rebels at first quickly spread, challenging the Federation's borders. Tiberius, a young commander in the Federation's elite strategy team, had won multiple battles thanks to his military genius and calm demeanor. He had been tasked with quelling this rebellion, but he sensed that the situation involved more than just internal unrest. This rebellion might be part of a bigger plan, Tiberius said to the gathered military officers. The rebels are not just attacking from within, there's also an external threat. While the inhabitants of Federation-controlled planets defended against the freedom-seeking colonies, a growing alien menace loomed. The Drakons, a savage species, had decided to exploit the Federation's weakness in the midst of this civil war. Tiberius' fleet was en route to Arcturus, one of the planets where the rebellion was most intense. Arcturus had become the stronghold of the independence movement, a strategic point the Federation could not afford to lose. As the ships descended into the planet's atmosphere, the scene was far worse than Tiberius had anticipated. The rebels weren't just armed. They had secretly formed an alliance with the Drakons. When one of the ships came under heavy fire, Tiberius issued a sharp order: establish a defensive line. The attacks are coordinated, and we need to adapt to Drakon technology. The rebels and Drakons had united against the Federation, threatening it both from within and without. Fear began to spread among the soldiers, for they now faced an enemy composed not only of humans, but also of one of the galaxy's most dangerous species. Tiberius was determined to uncover the truth behind the Drakon alliance. There had to be a traitor within the Federation, someone who had betrayed them to their enemies. Finding this traitor was vital to securing victory for the Federation. The rebels' tactics showed they were waging not just a military campaign, but also a psychological one. One night, Tiberius held a secret conversation with Brannon, one of his most trusted officers. Brannon hinted that the key figures behind the rebellion might be within the Federation itself. I believe someone at the highest levels of the Federation may have struck a secret deal with the Drakons, Brannon said in a low, dark tone. This information forced Tiberius to completely rethink his strategy. He now had to be on guard not just against the external enemy, but also against traitors within his own ranks. The final battle with the rebels would be a turning point for the Federation. After days of meticulous planning, Tiberius had devised a flawless strategy. The key was to break through the enemy lines and scatter their forces, cutting them off from both their human allies and their Draconian supporters. The moment of decision was fast approaching, and the entire fleet was in battle formation. The Federation's massive warships waited silently on the outskirts of the Arcturus system. Tiberius stood on the bridge of the flagship, studying the movements of the enemy forces on the enormous screen before him. The rebels and their Draconian allies had taken a heavily defensive position, but Tiberius had yet to discern what exactly they were defending. "We'll split the fleet into two groups," Tiberius said, his eyes never leaving the screen. "The first group will destroy the rebel main fleet, while the second one strikes against the Draconians. We'll crush the enemy on two fronts simultaneously. Brannon, you'll lead the vanguard. You must reach the Draconian command ship and neutralize them." Brannon nodded sharply. "Understood, Commander. If we take out their leaders, the rest will crumble quickly." Tiberius exhaled deeply. This was the Federation's last hope. If they failed, both the rebellion and the Draconians would tear the Federation apart. With their orders issued, the fleet sprang into action. The massive warships of the Federation slowly gained speed as the rebels' radar detected their approach. Explosions suddenly shattered the silence of the planet's orbit. In the deep vacuum of space, Energy projectiles tore through the void, hurtling toward enemy ships at deadly speeds. The first wave of attacks focused on the rebel main fleet. Federation light cruisers sliced through the enemy lines with swift maneuvers, unleashing precise laser fire upon the rebel vessels. As the first hits landed, explosions erupted from the rebel ships. Shattered metal debris spun aimlessly into the dark expanse as the rebel formations began to fall apart. "Now," Tiberius ordered coolly. "Second group, move in on the Draconian fleet. Let's divide their attention." Brannan, commanding his ship, sped toward the enemy lines, aiming to breach their defenses. The massive Draconian warships, with their thick armor, appeared impenetrable, but the Federation's technology was proving to be unexpectedly potent against them. As Brannan's ship swept past one of the Draconian vessels at high speed, it came under heavy fire. "Brace for heavy fire," Brannan shouted, issuing orders to his crew. "Shields to maximum power." The ship's energy shields rattled under the barrage of enemy fire, the metal groaning with the strain. But Brannan was determined. They had to reach the weak spot of the Draconian ship. The Draconian command ship was colossal, bristling with weapons capable of spewing deadly energy in every direction. Tiberius observed the massive vessel closely on the strategy screen. The Draconian defenses were formidable, but their weakest point was their leadership. If they could destroy the command ship, the rest of the Draconian fleet would quickly collapse. "Brannan, the lower defense systems of the command ship are vulnerable. Target the energy condenser there." "We must take out their command center," Tiberius instructed, his eyes fixed on the gigantic enemy vessel. Brannan's ship maneuvered through the intense enemy fire, pressing onward toward the target. "Energy condenser locked," Brannan's lieutenant shouted. "Fire now," Brannan yelled. A concentrated beam of energy shot from Brannan's ship, striking the Draconian ship's lower defenses with deadly precision. Instantly, a series of massive explosions tore through the Draconian command ship, ripping apart one section of the vessel entirely. The enemy lines quickly began to disintegrate. Draconian leaders' frantic orders crackled over the comms, but with their command ship in ruins, the remaining Draconian fleet was left defenseless. One by one, their ships fell, as if ghosts evaporating into space, swiftly neutralized by the advancing Federation forces. When the battle finally ended, the Federation forces had suffered heavy losses. The skies above Arcturus were littered with the burning wreckage of destroyed ships. But the rebels and Draconians had been dealt a crushing defeat. As Tiberius watched the aftermath of the battle, the taste of victory left a bitter note in his mouth. Silence fell over the bridge. A few soldiers checked on the wounded, while others gathered salvageable parts from the debris. Tiberius had won, but the unease in his heart remained. The war was over for now, but he wasn't entirely convinced that the Draconian threat had been fully extinguished. Tiberius turned to Brannan, his gaze weary but resolute. "This is only the beginning." Brannan nodded, sharing the same concern. A bigger war may be looming on the horizon, and so the Federation would have to prepare, not only to root out traitors within, but also to face the next great battle against external threats. With the war over, the Federation regained its strength. However, the victory had come at a great cost. The rebellion had revealed the deep divisions within humanity. Despite his victory, Tiberius felt a lingering unease. Though the Dracons had retreated, they weren't completely vanquished. Tiberius turned to Brannan and took a deep breath. "This is only the beginning," he said. "A bigger war might be on the horizon." Brannan nodded solemnly. "If we want to win that war, we need to clean house and root out the traitors within first." And so, the Federation found itself preparing for the next war, both against enemies within and those outside its borders. "I hope you had a good time," If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye. See you in the next story.